to another episode of Well-Adjusted Mama. This is a podcast dedicated to educating and empowering women from preconception, pregnancy, birth, and through early motherhood on wellness lifestyle. I'm your host, Dr. Laura Brayton, and I'm a maternity pediatric chiropractor as well as mother who has hand-selected experts in natural holistic healthcare specialties to shine light on options and choices during this exciting phase of a woman's life. Today, I focus on the topic of navigating parenthood's financial journey with my guest, Stacy Francis. Stacy Francis is the founder of the nonprofit Savvy Ladies and president and CEO of Francis Financial, a fee-only boutique wealth management, financial planning, and divorce financial planning firm dedicated to providing ongoing comprehensive advice for successful individuals, couples, and women in transition such as divorce or widowhood. She is a certified financial planner, certified divorce financial analyst, certified grief recovery specialist, and certified estate and trust specialist with over 20 years of experience in the financial industry. Stacy is also the host of Financially Ever After podcast and the author of Financial Help for Widows, a complete resource guide, as well as the Unveiling the Unspoken Truth, the financial challenges women face during and after divorce. She's a nationally recognized financial expert, being one of 20 in the nation's leading wealth managers on CNBC's Digital Financial Advisor Council, a member of the Forbes Finance Council, as well as an expert contributor for Kiplinger and the Wall Street Journal. She's appeared in hundreds of media outlets and has received numerous industry awards, among them Forbes Top Women Wealth Advisors, Investopedia's 100 Top Wealth Advisors, Investment News Top 20 Women to Watch in the U.S., and Financial Planning Magazine's Pro Bono Award. For more information about her and her firm, you can check out francisfinancial.com, and more information for her nonprofit, go to savvyladies.org. Hi, Stacy. Welcome to the show. I'm very much looking forward to our conversation today.
I am too. I love being a parent and I love talking about finances. So this is a good combo.
A combo for sure. We are speaking about navigating parenthood's financial journey, and you're a financial expert and you're also a parent. So we're really going to speak to the beginning of when couples find out they're expecting a baby and how they can financially prepare for the additional costs that come up during pregnancy, birth, and obviously for the rest of the child's life and all the things that go along with caring for a child. So where do we start?
So, the numbers are pretty staggering. They're the Brookings Institute. It's an economic think tank, and they tried to put a price tag on what does it cost to raise a child up to age 17. And I will tell you the number is staggering. It's six figures. It's, far beyond over 300,000 to raise two children. So that doesn't include private school, that doesn't include college, that doesn't include a whole lot of stuff. So the best thing you can do is to start to plan in advance. So what are those additional expenses? Diapers, formula, obviously medical costs. If you're going to be taking some, time out of the workforce and you don't receive parental leave, then you might want to put some additional money on the side, 3 to 6 months of expenses. These are some things start to think about. Again, budgeting, putting money aside if you're taking some time off. And then the third thing, which I wanted to really focus on, is life insurance. Oh. And I'm a financial advisor, but I'm a fee-only financial advisor. So I don't receive any compensation when our clients buy life insurance or don't. But I have to tell you that it's not a nice to have. It truly is a must have when you have children, because I have worked with so many women who their partner has passed away unexpectedly. They are now solely responsible for raising their child and financially providing for their child. And many of them come to us and they didn't have the right life insurance, or even some of them life insurance at all, and they find themselves really mourning the sorrow of losing their spouse. They're helping to support their child who has lost their parent, and now they have a burden of, how am I going to keep a roof over my head? I mean, how are we going to do this? Do I need to go back to work? So a lot of things to think about.
That's huge. So there's a lot of different, I mean, I didn't even know we were going to talk about life insurance, but there's a lot of different options with life insurance. Do you want to be a little more specific about one's a plan specifically for young families?
Yeah, you know, you will get different advice from, I would say, the insurance companies. If you
Mm,
go to an insurance company that I will, not mention any names, but they're gonna most likely talk to you about the benefits of what's called permanent life insurance. And permanent life insurance is exactly what it sounds like. It's for the rest of your life. And it can be appropriate if you have a child who's disabled, or you have someone who's always going to be reliant on you, or let's say you have a net worth between you and your spouse above 20 million or above 15 million, and maybe there's some estate taxes that might be due. But for the vast majority of people, Laura, term life insurance is a much more savvy way to go. And term is exactly what it sounds like. It's for a period, a term of time. I myself, I'm a financial advisor. I know the benefits of both, but I chose term insurance and I chose term 20. So I bought that when I had my son, and it means that I now have insurance until he's 20 years old, which at that point, I think he's going to be in a pretty good place. He'll be in college, and you can also then be able to even choose a longer period of time. Let's say you want to do term 25. You want to make sure that your child is age 25 before that insurance goes away. There's a lot of flexibility. And the reason why, in particular, I like term insurance is it's significantly less expensive. And I know for my husband and I, boy, we did not have a dollar to spare when we had my son. So
mm.
every dollar we had, really, we had to think very seriously about how we were spending it. And we were able to get about $2 million of insurance for the cost of about $1,500 a year. And that isn't going to be the case for everyone. It's based on your medical history. It's based also on your own health. But wow, knowing for $1,500 a year that my family would have $2 million, it just really helped me have peace of mind. So that's what I would say is when you're out there for insurance, figure out what you can afford. And if you are tight on cash, then for a lot of people, term is the right thing to do.
It's yeah, definitely less expensive. Is that you have to have a policy for yourself and then a policy for your husband, right? So is that 2 million per person that you were speaking to?
Yeah, so we did a policy for me that was 2 million, and then also for my spouse, my husband, 2 million. Now know that most people, if you're working, you also have employer coverage. But what I have seen, Laura, is that often a lot of people, their coverage maxes out at 1 times their salary. So if you're making $100,000, your life insurance would be maxing out at $100,000. So just don't
That's a
fall in.
one-time payout once you
Yeah,
die.
a one-time payout. So
Um,
don't fall into the trap of, I know I have insurance at work, I'm okay for life insurance. For the vast majority of people, it's nowhere near enough. And there are a lot of calculators you can use online. One rule of thumb is to have 5 times your salary to be paid out. That's one rule of thumb. I've even heard, some people have even said, 10 times your salary. Really, it's going to be up to you of what's going to make you feel comfortable. Also, whether or not your spouse is working and can work.
right.
These are all the factors to think about, and a great financial expert can help you run the numbers to really make sure that you have enough insurance, but you're not overinsured either.
I have both because I do like the benefit with the whole life of having the savings aspect, but also knowing that my payout if I die is obviously a lot smaller than the term.
Yeah, and a lot of people will do that. There's no one right solution for everyone. Every person's financial situation is a little different, and it's about what you need, what you can afford, and what's going to let you sleep at night. Because that's really, you know, what good financial planning is all about. It's about
Yeah.
making sure you're on the right financial track and that you can sleep at night.
That's right. So I like the idea of getting the life insurance when the baby's born, and to your point, having the coverage to get until they're at least an adult and they can ideally provide for themselves. And then what are other ways to like save money and budget for these additional costs that we know are coming down the pike?
Yeah, so I mean, I think we all agree that when you have a baby, it's wonderful, but it's also really expensive. So thinking about some ways that you can save, and one of them is actually using some of the benefits that are available at your work. One of them is what's called a FSA. It's a flex spending account. And what it does is it allows you to put money into that account, essentially pre-tax. So if you're putting in $2,400, you actually are not having to pay taxes on that $2,400 that you put in. So it helps you have your dollars go further, and that's for medical expenses. And we all know with a baby, medical expenses do definitely go up. The amount that you can put in for 2023 has gone up. Actually, it was a $200 increase over last year. So now you can put in $3,050 into that plan to be used for medical expenses that maybe are not being covered by your health insurance.
I have an HSA. Can you talk about the difference between the two?
Great question. A HSA stands for a health savings account, and it's different. A health savings account is a account that is like a retirement account or a brokerage account that you actually can save money into and you can invest. That flex spending account, no, you put the money in and then you need to spend most of it. Sometimes they'll let you carry a little bit over, but it's kind of like a use it or lose it. You put that and $50 in, and you need to spend it over the year. Now, the health savings account, Laura, is fantastic because you put money into this account. You have the option to use it for health expenses or keep it in there and have it grow over time as it's invested. But not everybody can open a health savings account. It needs to be if you have a health insurance plan that has a high deductible.
Mm-hmm.
And so it's not right for everyone. For some people, if you are extremely healthy and you expect your baby to be extremely healthy as well, a high deductible insurance plan may be the right thing for you. And if so, then you can open up that HSA to put some additional dollars away pre-tax, be able to use them if you like, or continue to invest them over time. And you can use, again, the money in that health savings account, you can use even when you are retired.
Right.
So there's no time limit of when you need to use that money.
I love that. And I love that it is a savings account and, it's small interest, but still every little bit helps. The tax savings is great. And I personally use it for myself and my son when we go to the dentist. We go and I get my contacts and, eye exam. We are healthy. We don't need to go to the doctor very often. So we use that for everything else. And it's great for people that are looking chiropractic, acupuncture, a lot of these types of services accept both FSA and HSA. And it doesn't matter if your insurance covers that service because you have the funds there to pay for it.
Very, very important. And so I love what we're talking about. So flex spending account, if that's really for anyone to put those pre-tax dollars away, but make sure you spend them at the end of by the end of the year. That health savings account, especially if you have a high deductible insurance plan, which, you're on the hook for more dollars out of pocket before it starts to pay out, but the premiums are lower. But there's one more I want to make sure that, especially as parents, that you know about because you probably haven't heard about it. At work, most likely, they also have what's called a dependent daycare account. And what's wonderful is for a couple that's married filing jointly, you can put in up to $5,000, and that money can go towards the cost of caring for your child if you do have a full-time job. And so that can go towards, let's say you have childcare that is on the books. So it might be a childcare company. It could be a nanny or an au pair that you have on the books that you are actually making sure that you are paying Medicare and Social Security on their wages that you're paying. It can also be for camps or after school clubs as well. So there's a lot of things that you can do, and you can continue to use those costs as a deduction to be paid by this dependent daycare account. I think my understanding is up until the child is age 13. So my daughter just turned 14, but I've been able to, even her camps during the summer, a lot of them have been eligible, and it's worked out really wonderfully. Again, the money I put in there, $5,000, had it been after tax, I would have had to make $7,500 to pay that $5,000, but that's not the case, right? That's a tax-free $5,000. So $2,500 per person, or married filing jointly, $5,000.
And this account you said is through like large corporations, or like what if you're self-employed?
So self-employed, you can also look into, depending on the ownership of your company and your role within it, even someone who is self-employed may be able to have a dependent daycare account. You just have to reach out to your financial advisor of understanding, are you an S Corp? Are you a solo? Are you an LLC? What's the ownership structure of whether or not you can participate in some of these items.
Okay, so almost like a 401k, they would have to set that up for you. It's not something that your accountant can just deduct at the end of the year when you do your taxes.
Lori, you so hit it on the head. So yes, there is some paperwork involved, and with that paperwork, like a 401k, you would have to set that up. Same thing with the flex spending account, with the dependent daycare account, things like that. So you would want to be, working with either your payroll company. Usually it's your payroll company, or if you're working with a company that is a PPO through TriNet or JustWorks. There's a few others out there too that can help.
Got it. So yeah, this is really interesting. I'd never heard of that, but these are great ways where you're able to. In this case, is this also tax-free money? Just like the
it
FSA
is. It's tax-free money, and boy, all of these items really do add up in being able to save in tax credits. And that's the other thing I will say too, is meet with your accountant. Obviously, your child is a dependent, so you're going to be able to claim them as a dependent on your taxes. So your taxes are going to go down, but you might also be eligible for some other credits that are available depending on your earnings. And so meeting with your CPA, your accountant, to talk about, are there some other deductions I should be taking now that I'm a mom or a dad, to again try and make those dollars go a little further.
Got it. And then there's even like some government programs or other financial assistance that might be available. Can you speak to those?
There are. So there's the Child and Dependent Care Tax Credit. It's called the CDCTC. I don't think I could say that fast 3 times,
No.
but it provides a tax credit of up to $3,000 per child, or $6,000 for 2 or more children. And when I say credit, this is, again, just so you know, this is free money. This is free money that is for typically lower income families to be able to access affordable care. So look up, based on your state, what the income eligibility is. Every state is a little different, but what I think is really important, a lot of people don't think that they're eligible for this, but when they look at the income eligibility, they sure are, especially if one of you has taken a step back in your career because your family is expanding. So you might be eligible. So make sure you do it. And again, just so you have it, because I know this is a lot of words, but it's the Child and Dependent Care Tax Credit.
Wow. And it is interesting that different states have different income guidelines around it's a federal program, but the states still get to determine the income cap.
So there are a lot of states. I would also check with your own state because each state has different programs in addition, and many of them have subsidized childcare.
Wow. So what about for education? Like a lot of people think like, okay, I got to save for college, but
Yeah.
sometimes public schools don't work for your child and you need to do private or even homeschool. And there's an associated cost with that, right? So how do we plan for that?
Well, I'm going to first do the most important thing. Make sure that you're saving for your own retirement first, right? Make sure that you're on track to reach your retirement goals. And that being said, if you are, then let's look at education, particularly college savings. But education for college, saving into a 529 college savings plan obviously can be used for those post high school years to help fund the cost of that. But what I have to tell you too, what's interesting, there are a lot of states who will allow you to use those 529 plans up to $10,000 a year towards K through 12.
Mm-hmm.
So that's something to think about. That funny enough, I live in a state, New York, that does not. I got really excited, and then I looked at the details on savings for college. It's a great website, and it turns out that New York is not compliant to that.
Oh.
No idea why that is. But if you go to Savings for College, it's a fantastic pro bono website, lots of great information. It gives you all the information about the different 529 college savings plans. And based on the state that you live, you may be able to also get a tax deduction for the dollars that you invest in that 529 plan. So that website will tell you all of that information. And what I would say is if your retirement is on track and that you are putting away towards that, then also look towards this sooner than later, because babies born now, when they reach age 18, they're saying that 1 year, this is 1 year, is going to be more than six figures. It's going to be $120,000 a year. This is according to Vanguard. And that is partially because we're seeing that tuition is increasing by 6% a year. So, and right now, the average is 54,000. I looking at colleges right now with my son, and that is the typical price tag. I've even seen some places where it's 70,000 for tuition fees and room and board. So, all I can say is that the prices are not going down; they're only going up.
And, what about private versus public with universities? Is that the average between the two?
So that is public colleges. That's the average of public colleges.
So private's more.
That's actually, that's not even including our private colleges. Yeah, it's a big number. It really is. And of course, you can fill out the FAFSA there, for financial aid. And for a lot of couples, they do qualify. And even if you don't think you qualify, you should fill that out. Even more so if you have another child that's in school too. But just try, because you never know. You never know. And even I would say for private school K through 12, a dear friend of ours, a single dad, worked on Wall Street, filled out the application for financial aid at that private high school. And he actually received a little bit of extra help, which he really didn't expect, but boy, was it appreciated.
Yeah. Yeah, it's interesting. And, I'm in New Jersey and we have a 529 for my son. And I do believe that you can use those costs towards K through 12. So it's interesting how I didn't realize that state to state, those laws are different as well. But
Yeah, and I tell you, I mean, the costs, you may see this in New Jersey. I'm in New York City, so the tuition that you see for private high school or even elementary can easily be five figures, 40,000, 50,000. I've even seen a few schools that have additional programs, with learning for learning differences up to 60,000. But the average annual tuition for a private high school across the country is still quite high. It's about $16,000. And elementary isn't a joke either. Um, you know, Elementary is almost $8,000 a year. So these are big numbers. I myself went to both public and private. I see the benefit of both. My children both have done public and private. Right now we're doing private, and it's like we're paying college tuition every year.
That's right. New Jersey's very similar with that. And I did private preschool, and now I'm so excited he's starting public kindergarten in the fall. And we
Yay!
moved to a town that has great public schools, and we're willing to pay the taxes to get that benefit, right, while he's still going to school here. But it is, I'm like very excited. I'm like, that's going to be thousands of dollars. I mean, it was thousands of dollars for preschool, right? So, these do add up. Plus, having a nanny and other expenses. So it's always helpful, even if both parents are working, to know like, how can we manage this? And, one thing that's come up in other podcasts is, and I think it would be important to cover, is when if we're talking to expectant parents, they have not given birth yet, and really getting clear about after the baby's born, who is staying home, and or after you're done with your maternity leave, are you both going back to work, paternity leave? Like, how does that look like? Because there can be a lot of stress when that's not discussed, right? And just having a conversation about like, no, I want to stay home with the kids and you have to go to work and provide for us financially.
Yeah. Laura, it's very stressful to have kids. I love my kids. I have a 14-year-old, 17-year-old. I mean, they're amazing. But I also know how difficult it was financially. And, for us, we both had to work. There was no choice. And in fact, I know this sounds awful, but my maternity leave was 3 days.
Wow.
I worked for myself. I had no staff members way back then. Now, my firm, there's 18 of us, and it's wonderful. But 17 years ago, that was not the case.
Right.
So having a plan of action of who's going back to work, who's not going back to work, how do we make sure that we can financially afford this? How can we make sure that we both have the support we need also? And if one of you are going to put your career on the back burner, make sure that you have a real frank conversation, because Laura, one of the things I haven't talked about, which happily married couples really don't like to talk to me because of, is I'm a certified divorce financial analyst, which is wonderful for my marriage. I always joke that my husband's slightly afraid of me. But we have truly been, I married my best friend, and I couldn't be happier. We've been together over 22 years. But I have seen so many marriages that have broke down, and the person who has given up their career never fully financially recovers, because after the divorce, after spousal support runs out, which is not that long anymore, they are really still trying to go up that career ladder to make up for the years that they have been out. And it doesn't mean that staying home is a bad choice. It does not mean that, but it means that maybe you need to have a post-nup in place.
I've never heard of a post-nup.
Yeah, so a prenup is before you get married, and you talk about, how we're each going to be taken care of financially if, God forbid, it doesn't work. A post-nup is something that we see as more frequent than we've ever seen in history. And I always say, especially if someone is going to give up their career, that's something you want to talk about, because that is an asset that you're just not going to get back.
Mm.
Typically, when women have been out of the workforce for 5, 10, 15, 20 years going back, they're looking at a starting salary of maybe 40, 45,000, maybe 60,000, where their spouse has been in the workforce for decades and they might be in the six figures. They
Mm-hmm.
may even be high six figures. Um, and so, again, trying to make sure that both people are taken care of and that you're working together as an economic unit, and whoever's staying home is getting the same security as the person who's working. And I will tell you too, Laura, we always we say it's, he's working, she stays home. But I've worked with couples too where he stayed home.
Sure.
She has gone back to work and he is struggling financially now. So it goes both ways. It really
Right.
does.
So what is this postnup? It means you've already married, and now let's say you're starting a family and you create an agreement, a legal agreement to provide for the parent who's choosing to stay at home and raise the children.
Yes, that would be one of the things that's included in there. It also can talk about division of assets. It can talk about, how long spousal support might be paid, or maybe there's an additional amount that is paid for job retraining and support. So it can cover all those things. The things that it should not cover, and this is where you want to talk to a lawyer, but you can't talk about child support because those are the rights of the child. Right. So you wouldn't necessarily see that in a postnup.
Oh.
The other thing that you wouldn't see in a postnup is custody arrangements.
Mm-hmm.
That, again, those are the rights of a child. You can't put that in agreement from a postnup. But there's a lot of things that you can put in that to, again, just making sure that both parents are protected, and that you're also on the same page. And I know that it may not be romantic, but it's even less romantic when you're getting a divorce and all of a sudden, one parent is having to move back in with mom and dad, and the kids
Wow.
have a drastically different lifestyle with them than they do the other parent.
Right. So are these happily married couples that are writing these postnups? Like, I mean, was that like, when do you write
Typically,
that? Not
so
when you're
for
planning on
something
getting
like
divorced.
starting a family, yes, typically happily married, and they're usually, I find, more more successful marriages because they can talk about money.
Sure.
However, postnups do come into place. I do see that when someone has been behaving badly in a marriage.
Oh.
And it could be, I've seen it in situations where one person has a gambling habit, an addiction, if there's been cheating or some type of trust broken, where the person who is wanting that postnup is looking for protection.
Right.
Looking
They're
for
not ready
protection.
to file for divorce, but they want it in case that happens, it sounds like.
Exactly. Exactly.
Oh,
Yeah. It's fascinating. It's
it is.
fascinating. And things may change. My husband and I talked about a postnup too, because the way our assets are structured, I have this beautiful, wealth management business. Our focus is at Francis Financial, working with women going through divorce and women who are widows. And that makes up half of our net worth now, this
Mhm.
beautiful business and the
Right.
value of it. And we're doing very well, saving for retirement in our home, but the business is very significant. So what would happen is I would be living in a cardboard box, but I would have my business, and he would have the beautiful home, the boat, and the beautiful 401k plan for retirement.
Oh,
And so it's not that he's not going to get part of the business if God forbid something happens, but that we talked about, okay, if this does happen, how do I pay you out for your fair share of the business over time so that I can make sure my employees are taken care of, that it doesn't hurt them, just all those things. And it's not an easy conversation, but once he understood where I was coming from of me worrying about like having to sell the business in a fire sale, that it would affect my employees and their families, he's like, oh yeah, I get that. I get that. And then it was like, okay. And so for us, it's just a very small part. It's a buying out the business over this amount of time. right?
So you actually created that agreement.
So we are in process
Oh,
of
wow.
creating that agreement. Yep.
So this brings me to another question. And like you mentioned, it can be hard to talk about finances, especially in an intimate couple, like partnership that is now involving children, right? Like it's next level. Do you have any tips about how to have these healthy communications on money?
Yeah.
Especially like when both partners they may have different views on money and
Oh my
save
gosh,
versus
yes.
spend and all of that, right?
Yeah, it's like taking a soda can and then shaking it up, right? What do we know? Well, that's what you're doing when you add a child to your family. You're just adding more stress, quite frankly, and then less sleep. So those are not really a good situation. I'll be honest, for us, we have very different views about money. If I have $1, I'll try and save two, and I get excited about that. If he has $1, he'll spend two, and he
Mm.
will be the first to admit it. Um, so we did a few things. Number one, we started doing financial date nights that we still do.
Oh.
And it's where we'll meet once a month and we just go over all the finances. It's less formal, but we still do it at least once a month. Now it's often after the kids go to school and we have a cup of coffee and we're sitting in our living room. And, like this morning we did that and we were just talking about, you know, what are we going to do for our vacations for the summer? Are we going to not take a big trip because we want to put a little bit more towards the emergency fund? So we talk about all those things.
Mm.
I can't stress it enough. There have been times, though, where we haven't gotten along and we haven't agreed. And that's again because we come from such different backgrounds of what our belief in money is. And so we've actually worked with therapists before. And especially early on in our marriage when we had children, also with that additional financial stress, it really helped us navigate that. Because I'll be honest, Laura, we would go to Starbucks and end up in a fight because
Oh.
I would buy the tall, crappy coffee that's in the drip dispenser, right?
Mhm.
And then he would get the venti blah, 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 cappuccino with blah, blah, blah. And I'd be like a wet hen. I'd be livid. And it was just, for him, that's what really mattered and here I thought
Right.
I was sacrificing by the tall coffee. And you know what? Like, let's find something. How about we both get grandes,
Right. Yeah.
right?
He was
We can
living
get
the good life and you were sacrificing. And yeah, it's like there's some compromise involved, right?
Yeah, and learning how to communicate about that and like what's important to him and what's important to me and just know that like money isn't easy. We all have emotionally charged, you know, beliefs about money of our background and
Hmm.
for me I watched my grandmother. She was in a abusive marriage and she shared that she felt financially trapped. So for me, money means safety, right? It's like a primal,
Mm.
like if I don't have enough in savings, I'm not physically safe. Now,
Wow.
my husband is the most wonderful, sweet guy. He would never hurt me. We've never had that. But I just I realized that about myself. And so sharing that with him, he was able to then understand, okay, I get it why Stacy seems a little off, why she seems a little crazy about this savings thing.
Because of your
And
grandmother's story. And your grandmother was actually murdered, correct? By
she
her husband.
was. Unfortunately, the abuse became so significant, and he had promised that he had stopped, but he didn't.
Mm.
He didn't, and it was something that, to be quite honestly, that's why I do this work. Um, we work with all different types of women, but the thing that really I have to say is really binds all the women we work with is that wanting to be financially secure,
Yeah.
wanting to be financially safe, and everybody on the face of the planet deserves that.
Yes. And there is some safety security that's attached with money. I mean, we need it for our needs, right? Our basic needs. So that's what you're speaking to. This is not about living necessarily an extravagant lifestyle, but it's just making sure that you can take care of your children with food and housing and that they're warm, clothes, like really these basic needs that all still require some finances. We want as as parents, we want to be able to not only provide that for ourselves, but of course for our children as well.
Yeah, that's important. And I have to say, as parents, we have an amazing opportunity to model good money habits
Yes, let's talk
and
about
model
that.
good communication around money. I mean, everybody talks about like sex and how important it is to teach your children and talk, openly about and accepting about sex and where they are. But it's the same also about money. And so, talking to your kids about, you know, how you're saving for their college, or you're saving for your retirement, or you're really working on paying down student loans or paying down credit cards, and letting them know like kind of your money management and priorities, so that they can start to get familiar with, oh, what are credit cards? Why do you have student loans? Why is it important to save for retirement? Um, just all these things that we think about that are normal, but our kids don't know that. And boy, wouldn't it be wonderful if you could raise really financially confident and kids that have a wonderful understanding about how to budget, how to, how credit cards work,
Mhm.
how to save, and even better, how to invest. Like,
Yes,
wow, that would be amazing.
it would be. Like how did you teach your children about finances?
So I'm probably on the other side. I mean, they know everything
Which is
about
great. They're
our financial
teenagers.
situation.
Okay.
So at the dinner table, I mean, we talk about it. We talk about, like, we'll have our financial date night or our financial coffee, and we'll say, okay, mommy and daddy, we were talking about vacations, and right now our emergency fund is this. It's 3 months of living expenses. We really want to get it up to 6. So instead of doing a big trip this summer, we're going to do a smaller trip close to home, and that's going to go towards helping build that emergency fund. Like,
Mm.
right? And we bring it up in conversation. We talk about
Do they have
retirement.
jobs?
What was that?
Do they have jobs?
So my son is going to be working this summer. For me, he's 17, and
Mhm.
my daughter actually is going to start to do some work as well. And so they're starting to do that.
Mhm.
They have a credit card called Green Light. It's a fantastic tool for parents,
Oh.
and it's essentially a debit card, but it teaches them money management. And so if you go to Green Light, it teaches them. There's a portion that you can put into savings that they can't touch, and
Oh.
only once the parent moves it to spending can it
Oh.
actually be available. You can also restrict how the card is used. So, one of the things we learned early on is that we screened out being able to use it for Robux and Roblox, because my daughter was using all her money to buy in-game mods and things like that. And so we were able to actually say, okay, this card cannot actually be used at that vendor.
Okay.
And so it's a great way to kind of say, okay, you can use it for these items, but we're going to restrict it from like using it for video games,
Got
things like
it.
that.
Yes.
So it's a really good tool as well. But also talking to your kids, like, how much do you make? How much does it cost to live in your home? How much does it cost to fill up the car for gas? So that they can start to get a better understanding about what it takes to live life. And I will tell you, it's really created some great opportunities, particularly for my son, who's going to be going to college, as he thinks about his major. And he's grown up in, from we were very, very poor, but we've really been able to work hard and have been able to provide a really wonderful life for our children. And I shared, this is what your lifestyle costs. It doesn't mean that you need this lifestyle, but if you want this lifestyle, then you have to think about what you might want as your career. And so,
Which goes back into which major you're going to choose, like philosophy versus finance.
yeah, yeah, or and all of that does have an impact, and you don't want your children to think that that's the most important thing, what they make, because it
Right.
is not. But you want them to have thought about what kind of lifestyle do I want? How am I going to be able to provide that for myself so that they don't find themselves graduating and then having to be dependent on mom and dad because they didn't quite put the pieces together and put that plan in place.
Yeah, I mean, even like opening up a savings or checking account when they're like 13 years old, and learning how to like babysit, and it doesn't even have to be at a job at a quote unquote real company, that they can like start stashing and saving their money, and then if they want that video game, then they can spend the money that they've worked for, right, to buy those types of things.
Yeah, no, exactly, Laura. And we did that too. So our kids have had checking and savings accounts since they were about 7.
Oh, 7 years old. Okay.
And then we started them investing when they were 12.
And how was
So
that done? Through an app or?
so you can open up accounts at a lot of different places. Vanguard is one of them. My kids are at Charles Schwab,
Okay.
and we opened an account called a UTMA, a Unified Trust for Minors Act. It's called a UTMA, and it's an account that you own, and the custodian, or so you own that, and then the beneficiary is the child. Once they reach the age of majority in your state, which for New York, the age of majority I think is now 21,
Oh.
that account solely becomes theirs.
Oh.
So, you don't want to put $200,000 in it, but it's a
Okay.
great place for the babysitting money, the money that they might get for their bar mitzvah or bat mitzvah, or graduation from high school, birthdays. And so my kids have actually, they've added a lot of money over time. And what's great is that the two of them are super competitive. And so he's trying to outperform my daughter, and she's trying to outperform him by doing research and investing. And
So like they get
um,
to pick which where they're investing, and that determines how much interest essentially the account makes.
yes, and what we did when they were really little is we just started off with stocks that they were excited about.
Right.
So SeaWorld, they love SeaWorld. So SeaWorld was one of them, right? Now my son is in a green energy and AI fund, and my daughter is invested in, she's very excited, a women's leadership fund.
Mm-hmm.
Unfortunately, the AI fund is outperforming the women's leadership fund. But even for birthday presents, what we'll do is we'll invest for them and tell them all about it. They get really excited, and we invest based on what they're really interested in. And my daughter's really about women's leadership, and my son is very much about AI, space, things like that. So it gets them excited.
It makes it also feel like more tangible, right?
Yeah, not so scary, right?
Yeah.
Not so scary, because for us, we didn't have that, right? And then you open up an account. Maybe it's your first 401k at your first job. At least for me, I had no clue what to invest in.
Mm.
It was all very frightening to me. And so I asked my male colleagues. That's how I did it. That's pretty embarrassing. Now, of course, I went into this field. I, really educated myself. But the vast majority of people, we haven't had that education. We haven't had that upbringing.
Right. Yeah, that's a big thing. So I do think like you don't have to be afraid about learning. I think I agree. Like it's fun to learn how to invest. It's fun to watch your money grow. And certainly when you invest money when the kids are babies and you don't have to touch it until they're 18 plus, like the amount of interest that can build is,
Oh my gosh, it's amazing.
yeah.
Yeah, and another tip, I know we're coming up to time, but another tip I want to say, of course, opening a UTMA for your child, for them to be able to put money in for birthdays and things like that. But I think one of the best things you can do as a gift for a baby shower or like first year birthday is open up a 529 college savings plan.
Yeah.
And anyone who comes and wants to give a gift, all they have to do is write a check to that college savings plan. I have a friend who I did this for. She had about 50 people that instead of, the 10th jumper, and she doesn't need any
Right.
more jumpers,
Right.
donated to that to get almost half of the first year of savings for a 529 plan going.
It's
It's a
brilliant. It's brilliant. I don't know how new this is. Anybody who's had a 529, they could have done that, but it wasn't on my radar when my son turned a year. My cousin just had her son's first birthday a couple months ago, and she sent a link, and I couldn't attend the party. She's out of state. And all I had to do is click the link and put money directly into his account. You don't get easier than that. And I was so happy to contribute. And to your point, she didn't need another baby toy or baby outfit, and she was so grateful. So that is so smart. And like I said, I wish it was on my radar 4 years ago, but it's wonderful that parents are learning this is an option. And there is a way to even do that for baby showers as well. So while a mom is still pregnant, to either put money away for the baby in a savings or an investment account, but also determining where that money is. Like, you can give money and have it in a category as opposed to just buying a gift that parent may or may not need.
Yeah. It's I think it's really phenomenal where we are today versus even where we were 5 years ago.
Yeah.
But what I have to say is the more that we as parents learn about money and make it a priority, kind of like, our physical fitness, but I'll call it financial fitness, the more that we're going to be able to we're going to be able to impart that to our children and help them really build their habits of good savings, good money management, to build a financial future. And just literally also the thing is, the more financially secure and smart they are, the less likely they are to have to move back home after college and have you financially support them. So just throwing that out there too.
Yeah. And the parent wants that for their child. They want them to, spread their wings and fly. So this is so helpful. Do you have any last thoughts you want to share with the audience?
I would love to give two thoughts. So on the website, francisfinancial.com, we have fantastic blogs, more information about this. And another resource I want to give you is savvyladies.org. That is the beautiful nonprofit that I created in my grandmother's memory. That is my love letter to her. And there you'll see that we have over 200 self-paced financial courses. We even have a helpline where you can be matched with a volunteer to be able to have them answer any financial questions you have. And then hundreds of TED Talk-like videos of any financial topic you would like. And it's all free of charge. So
Wow.
savvyladies.org, a great resource for you. And if you're looking for an advisor or, wanting to work with someone in a more ongoing way, you can go to francisfinancial.com.
Thank you so much, Stacy, for coming on today.
Thank you. This was so much fun.
Stacy was such a wonderful resource for me to interview, talking about finances, especially as it pertains to women going through divorce and or widowhood. And, there's something to be said when we go through these major life stages as women and how it impacts us financially and how that impacts our entire lifestyle and quality of life. And I think it's important to spend time getting educated as women in this area so that we can really be empowered with our finances and not living in a place of fear or lack of choice based off of finances. So I love Stacy's perspective and her passion and purpose for supporting women in financial freedom, despite the life stage that woman is in. And please take advantage of her amazing nonprofit, Savvy Ladies, to get, support and information and education that you may need to help you have the financial freedom that we all desire and deserve. And once again, for more information, check out her website at francisfinancial.com. And for information on her nonprofit, go to savvyladies.org.